Hey, what's going on? This is Sports Truth. I'm your host, Jordan Harris. Before we get into the video, I got to tell you, I've been battling this cold. I got this fever, sneezing, coughing, all this weird stuff going on. So if I sound different, sorry about that. If I cough, sorry about that. If I sneeze into the camera, do something disgusting like that, my bad. So I want to put that out there, but I do have like my water and all that stuff in this secret compartment that y'all don't see. So we should be good. All right. We've got goals to meet here. And like I tell my employees and my kids, if we do fail to meet those goals, it won't be due to lack of effort. So we're going to get that. We're going to make sure we put forth the effort. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we do have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers within the next couple of weeks. So, all right. So let's get into the video. The topic of today's video is Nick Saban retiring. So we've all been dealing with this shell shock over the last few days. The last day, I should say, about Nick Saban retiring. But now it's time for us to start to be a little selfish and start to think about what does his retirement mean to our team, the team that we cheer for. What does it mean for the Hurricanes, right? So the first thing I want to talk about, there's actually two different things. One, there's a direct impact that Nick Saban's retirement will have on the Hurricanes, and then there's also an indirect impact that I think a lot of people are overlooking or they don't quite understand maybe. So we'll do the direct impact first, and then we'll go and we'll talk about the indirect impact right after that. So this, I got it straight from the NCAA, so it's got to be factual, right? There's a little part down here that I ended up putting a red rectangle around, and I know that y'all can't see that. I understand that. So what I did, since I love y'all so much, since I look out for y'all like I do, I made another slide, put a black background to it, and blew it up so you can read it with me. All right. So what it says is talking about transfers. It's talking about, it says student athletes receive an extra 30-day time period to enter the transfer portal if there is a head coaching change or if aid is canceled. So what does that mean for the Hurricanes? Let's talk about that. Okay, so this is the direct impact. When a coach leaves, every player on that team has the opportunity to jump into the transfer portal. They give an additional 30 days to make their decision. So obviously the transfer portal time, it came and went. But when your coach leaves, they grant you an additional 30-day period, which I think is pretty cool. All right, so when it comes to Alabama, now that their coach left, all of their players can now jump into the transfer portal without being punished for it. It does count against their one transfer, but it doesn't. I mean, they have the opportunity now to go search elsewhere if they want to. But let's talk about what this does mean and what it doesn't mean, because there's people online who are going to try to hype y'all up and have you thinking stuff that's just not true, okay? Some people are online saying, or they're talking as if every player from Alabama is now going to jump into the transfer portal. It's not realistic, all right? So I believe the most tenured players, so the people who are seniors, the players that are juniors, the players who are sophomores that actually got on the field last year, those players are most likely going to stay. Why? Because they look around their locker room and they see they have a team full of blue chips. And they're like, if they just bring a decent coach here next year, we'll have a shot at winning the whole thing. If they bring a really good coach here, we'll probably be favored. So it doesn't make sense to leave now. I do think that the incoming, just side note, I do think that the incoming recruiting will change quite a bit going forward for Alabama, because I don't think there's anything special about the school of Alabama. No disrespect to Bama fans. I think Nick Saban is what was special. I think if Nick Saban began coaching at Ole Miss next year, I think he would be the leading recruiter at Ole Miss. That's just what I think. So, okay. The players who are tenured, the ones who played, they're not leaving. I don't think they're going to be leaving. All of the players from Alabama are not leaving, okay? But there is a certain group of players on Alabama's team that I think the Hurricanes coaching staff should be bracing themselves for, to be able to talk to them and recruit them. And those are the incoming freshmen. So all the players who just signed to Alabama and they haven't been able to live under that magic of Nick Saban, I think those are the people that are primed to jump into the transfer portal and play for Miami. So let's talk about a couple of them. Let's put those on the screen here. So I believe there's two different types of players that we really should be focusing on. The first type is the type that had Miami listed as one of their finalists in their decision making. So remember back in the day when there were hats on the table and every player would do that, like instead of putting it on Instagram or whatever, like this, they would all have the hat on the table and they would pick the hat and say, I'm playing for this school. If Miami had a hat on the table during this play, whatever player it is, if Miami had a hat on the table, Miami needs to be looking at recruiting that player because they could potentially jumping into the transfer portal and playing for the Hurricanes next season. The other type of player that the Hurricanes should be looking to is the players that flipped from the Hurricanes to Alabama. And obviously there's one of those that stands out, which is Kevin Riley over there. He was committed to the Hurricanes for a long time and then flipped. Well, there was whispers about him flipping like 2 weeks before he did officially flip on signing day. But these are the two types of players that Hurricanes coaching staff should be looking forward to speaking with. The players who had Miami as one of their finalists and the players who flipped from Miami to Alabama. Okay, so that's that. Now so that's the direct impact. Okay, so there's a direct impact of Saban leaving because now his players are going to be transferring and we have the opportunity to go and get those players. Some of those players, right? Some players are transferring. Now, what's the indirect impact? Indirect impact is what I call coaching domino rally, or we can call it coaching ripple effect. The reason why we call it that is because when the coach at Alabama leaves, Alabama's not looking to promote from within. They're not looking to promote their offensive coordinator or their defensive coordinator. They want to get a big name in the door. That's what they're really focused on, is getting a big name so they can have a big splash and continue their momentum. Whenever they do that, so let's say Alabama ends up bringing in Dan Lanning from Oregon, who decided he was going to stay, but let's just say they brought him in. Now you have 30 days for the players at Alabama to jump into the transfer portal. And since Oregon's coach left, now these Oregon players, they also have 30 days to jump into the transfer portal. So that's why it's a domino rally or a ripple effect. Not only do you have this pool of players to look at from Alabama, now you also have this pool to look at from Oregon. And then let's say if Oregon ended up getting the coach from Baylor, now you have the players from Baylor who can now jump into the transfer portal, and you can look at those players. So that's why it's like a ripple effect or a domino rally that happens there. Not only do you have the direct impact, which is his school, his players jumping into the transfer portal, but the indirect portion of it is all the other vacancies that it's going to lead to based on the one position, the one vacancy that he left open. So let's go through this a little bit more. I do think, like I said earlier, Oregon's coach is staying. I think if Lane Kiffin gets the opportunity, he's going to leave just based off of his behavior with Tennessee and all of the other schools that he done weird stuff with. Lane Kiffin seemed like he wouldn't be loyal to his own parents. I'm not a Lane Kiffin fan, but anyway, looks like Washington's coach looks like he's probably going to get the opportunity. He is favored right now as far as Vegas goes. Like Vegas, they put odds out for everything, obviously, and he's got the top odds to land the job. But let's talk about this as well. This is something that's pretty interesting. Think if Dabo Swinney leaves, or if Mike Norvell leaves and takes the Alabama job, because Mike Norvell, believe it or not, as far as the odds to get the Alabama job, Mike Norvell has the second greatest odds of everybody. It's the Washington coach first, and then Mike Norvell is number 2. So let's say if they got the Alabama job. For one, it'll be great because it depletes our competition. I don't care how Florida State loses. I don't care how Clemson loses. I just want them to lose. I don't care if their starting quarterback, if his bus took the wrong turn and he wasn't able to get off the bus in time to play the game and they lost, I don't care. I just want them to lose. So if Mike Norvell or Dabo Swinney leaves, it depletes our competition by a lot from the recruiting standpoint, and also just because you can say what you want about those two coaches, but they are excellent coaches. X and O's, discipline, all of that, they are excellent at that. Can't deny it. So It would definitely deplete them from that perspective. Um, and then another perspective I want to talk about is number two, which is it would mean that the players from Florida State, if Mike Norvell left, they could transfer now. They would have 30 days to jump into the transfer portal. And I'm sure a lot more players from Florida State and a lot more players from Clemson would leave compared to the players that would leave at Alabama. I think a handful may leave from Alabama. I think if Mike Norvell left Florida State, it would look like a riot with people trying to run out of that organization. That's just my thoughts on that. So it would hurt them in two different ways. One, the coach leaves, so that just depletes them from a bunch of different perspectives. And then number two, their players can now jump into the transfer portal, and they have 30 days to do that. So that would be a double win for the Hurricanes, to be honest with you. So this, I want to say this, and y'all probably going to kill me for this. I know a whole lot of y'all probably going to be like, oh, come on, bruh. So this part of me wants to just scream at this camera and say, this nonsense about all of these coaches that's wanting to jump and leave and go to Alabama, this is part of why I think we should appreciate the coach that we have quite a bit more than what we do. I know Mario Cristobal has made some I don't know if you want to call them brain farts or I don't know what you want to call them. He's done some stuff that makes us go, what the hell was he thinking? I know that. It's true. But the man can recruit like crazy, and he wants to be a Hurricane. Like, I believe this is his dream job. I think if Alabama, I don't know if Alabama ever would call him, no disrespect to the man. But if Alabama called him, I think he would say, thank you, but no thanks. I want to be playing for the Hurricanes. I think that's what he would say. So that's my thoughts on that. And whenever you're looking at Oregon and you're looking at Washington or Ole Miss, all these different coaches around the country, every time a coaching position comes open, if they've had a successful season, let's say if Lane Kiffin had an excellent season, everybody's saying Lane Kiffin's probably going to take that job. If Dan Lanning had an excellent job at Oregon, they're going to say Dan Lanning is probably going to get that job because they know that he doesn't really have any serious connection to it. But with Mario Cristobal, the dude is like, he is Miami through and through. He played for the school. He won championships at the school. Now he's the coach at the school. He left Oregon to come coach Miami. This is his dream job, and he's going to be here as long as he doesn't get fired. I think he will decide to be here as long as he could possibly coach. I don't think he has any other job that he covets more than the Hurricanes job. That's my thoughts on that. So, cut the man a little slack, man. Get the man a little break. All right. So, curious to know what y'all think. Do you think that Alabama's going to have quite a few players that leave in the transfer portal, or do you think that most of them will stay? And if you do think they'll stay, why is that? Do you think that Nick Saban leaving is going to have any type of impact on their recruiting going forward, or will they continue to have that same level of recruiting where they're like top 3 every year for the last 50 years, it seems? Craziness. Let me know y'all's thoughts on that. As I always say at the end of the videos, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I truly appreciate that. So take care. God bless. Peace.